Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series. Here we're live in Valencia, Spain, to kick off 3 days of intense, hot and heavy StarCraft 2 action. I'm your host, Nathanius, joined once again by Artosis and Rotterdam as we get ready for our first match. Roddy, most interesting thing you've seen so far out of the tournament, out of the players that have come here? You got to sit down with some of them before we got started. What's got you excited?
The Moreno brothers and Raynor. The young Italian, and the Moreno brothers. I mean, group stage 1 has already been played. We have plenty of community streams. You guys can check that out as well. But for both of those guys, after being so successful in Heroes of the Storm, to just come back here, and yes, of course they've been playing for a month or two, but Nate, there are people like myself that play all the freaking time, and I'm still nowhere near as good as those two who can go away for years. I have so much love and admiration for those, because they're just amazing guys. They're so smart and talented.
Yeah, you know, Roddy, you said that they are the definition of a pro gamer. I have to disagree. I think that sets an impossibly high bar for other pro gamers. These guys are the definition of geniuses. Like, I am not even kidding. Legends from Warcraft 3, legends from StarCraft 2, pro gamers and Heroes of the Storm. They come back, like you said, just recently, and they're both already doing so well in this tournament.
They're eliminating guys who make it deep into Challenger. And Challenger in general can be seen as a top like you look at the top 16 or a top 8 even of a region. Lucifron is able to eliminate Masa, a guy that we know very well, is very successful in the North American region. Vortex eliminates Stefano, who just last week got like top 6 at Home Story Cup.
Yep.
I mean, these guys are something else. You got to be a fan of these Spanish players, man.
There's so much cool stuff going on, and we're going to look at those results as we continue forward. But here are the maps for this weekend, as we've got the map pool standard from the ladder. Gentlemen, map that stands out to you. You have a favorite, least favorite?
Well, I got to say, like, I love Redshift as a map. It gives you such interesting games, such cool games, but we don't get to see it very much. It gets vetoed a lot. Not many people get to actually play on that in these professional matches. So I'm really hoping we see some good Redshift games this weekend.
I'm with Tosis, and that gold map is funny on that map. But on this map pool, I kind of like to see pro gamers square off on 16-bit because it's such a macro-oriented map, and it really often tends to go towards the later stages of the game. And it's obviously really cool to see these players run around with like 200 supply armies and then try to break each other rather than having like a cute timing on Catalyst, which can be beautiful, but I love to see a good old bloodbath, Nate.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I'm hoping that we can see a bit of Redshift, and you know I'm a huge fan of 16-bit. As we're getting ready to look at the groups, was there anything else that jumped out to you? You guys were talking about, we did have those upsets from Lucifron and Vortex. 2 players I think to keep our eyes on in group stage 2.
Yeah, and like Roddy was saying, Raynor actually defeated Nurcio already in group stage 1. So that's pretty exciting. Like Nurcio, yeah, of course, he still made it through. He's still in the tournament. But Raynor's showing, you know, after doing so well in Code S and eliminating Classic, flies right over to Spain, kills Nurcio, wins his group, gets that top seed going into the next group phase. So another very exciting player to be watching here.
Yeah, there were definitely a couple of very fun groups in this first group stage. Like there were groups where maybe if you look at it, you're like, the guys that I expect to make it out maybe made it out. But definitely a couple of upsets. For instance, Lillecannon was able to win his group over DNS and Risky. While normally I would have said DNS probably wins that, and Risky should actually be the runner-up because he's been putting up good results. Clem, our other youngster, of course, we got to give him some love. He had a very tough decider match against another Spanish player called Majestic, who was very good back in the days. And he's also one of those guys that can go away for a while, come back, and 6.5k MMR on the ladder, but Clem did advance, so that's good news for him.
Nice. Let's take a look at our second group stage now as we show you what you'll be checking out throughout the duration of today's broadcast as we get through Group A. Players that stand out as we go through. We've got Raynor in here kicking things off.
Is this Group Stage 3, Nate? Or?
Yeah, really. Look at that first group, man. I mean, Hellraiser won his group in Group Stage 1. He's definitely still up and coming. You know, I hear some Hellraiser memes being brought up from time to time, but a strong Protoss. And when you put him in there with Soul and Raynor, who I think you have to put as the favorites, anything could really happen. We could have an upset in this group.
This is a very tough group to predict because, yes, Soul, Raynor, maybe the favorites on paper, but don't sleep on Denver, guys. That's also a Zerg. That's 6.5k MMR.
In Group B, you're talking about our upset player, Lillecannon. He's up there with Drogo and Vortex, as well as our other young player, Clem. 2 sick groups to start off.
Yeah, I just got to say, I look at that group and for me, the exciting thing, and I think people know because we've been talking about the Moreno brothers so much, but that's a group Vortex can get out of.
Yes. Not easy, but
No, not
absolutely
easy,
possible.
but it's doable.
Yeah, Drogo should normally win it, and then I think Clem or Vortex should take second place there.
Yeah, cool. Let's look at Group C. We've got Showtime, Neeb, and Sort of.
Wow.
That's also tough.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, sort of.
This is a pretty sick group stage, too.
Sort of had a disappointing Austin performance, but don't forget, this guy has also made it into the GSL multiple times, and then you've got the two best Protosses outside of Korea, so...
Yeah, his Zerg versus Protoss is amazing, too. I would actually be surprised if he doesn't make it out of that group.
All right, Group D, a Laser, Shadow, Hate Me, and Light. I think we can say a Laser stands out as the player that should be taking this one.
Yep, second place is going to be a tough call. I think Shadone and Hate Me are very evenly matched, but Shadone won his first group stage, by the way. He beat Lambo in his first group, so maybe Shadone a slight edge. And Light is also a very cool Romanian Proto, so awesome to see him make it over here, but he's an underdog in that group.
And it gets tricky again. We go to Group E. We've got Lambo, TLO, uThermal, and Demuzzle.
What a group!
Wow, lots of fan favorites in that group, no doubt.
The streamer group.
Well, I mean, Lambo is on fire recently, but getting second place, you know, in that first group stage makes you wonder, is he off a little bit? You know,
no Protos here, at least, unless uThermal decides to bring out some cannons again.
That's a super exciting group. Going up to F, we've got Bly, Elroy, Optimus, and Zanster. Heard Optimus looking pretty good, Kev?
Yeah, Optimus has been playing a lot, but it's still sometimes a little hit or miss. I look at this group and I say, that is a doable group, but I'm not going to say that Optimus is guaranteed top 2 here. Because Elroy actually very positively surprised me in group stage 1, as he advanced over Gerald from Poland and Crow as well. And Gerald finished last in that group, and Gerald is a 6.3k Proto. So for Elroy to be the runner-up in that group means he already beat 2 very good players.
All right, Group G, we've got Harstem, DNS, Rail, and Alice Reformed.
That's Alistair, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, interesting name. That's solid lineup.
Very Protoss heavy group.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our next group, Masa, Nurchio, Hirmine, and NXZ. We have our Australian players coming over.
Well, how's that Masa?
Yeah, I thought Masa was
Yeah, I was
actually
gonna say,
eliminated from group stage 1. I guess we'll just have to look into that.
We'll
but
double check
Hero Marine
that.
and Nurchio, you could put almost anyone else in that group, and they're the favorites anyways.
Yeah, I think Hero Marine looked really good. We've been talking about him quite a bit. He's one of the few players to take maps off of Cyril in those WCS challengers as well.
Yeah, I think like if he's not the best European Terran right now, he's second to Thermal.
Maybe Masa did advance then in the end.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, our
Wikipedia gets things wrong sometimes, so
All right.
could be.
Well, we're going to introduce the first matchup of the day, ladies and gentlemen, as we're ready to kick off WCS Valencia 2018. As we're going to show that first best of 3 to kick things off from group stage 2. I do believe it's a Terran versus Zerg. Sometimes they switch this up on us. It is uThermal versus Lambo.
What a
Hell of a
wild
match to
first
start
match. Yeah, this is something that you would expect. Like, oh, okay, so we're in the round of 16 today, right? No. This is very early to see these two fighting it out, and to go to the loser match, especially in this group as well. You know, we have like DeMuslim in there, and who was the other player in there, Roddy?
uThermal and TLO.
TLO. I mean, you go to that loser match, you might just be out of it immediately.
And we'll dive into that more in a sec. We do have Smix on the stage, ready to introduce the players, ready to get the paella action going here in Valencia, Smix.
I'm so excited indeed. Paella action, first match of the day. It's going to be Netherlands versus Germany, so please welcome up on stage. It is uThermal and Lambo.
Good old Terran versus Zerg to kick things off. uThermal talking about before the tournament, he brought his Lucky Sheep with him. We don't see it in the booth. Perhaps not allowed to bring Lucky Charms into the booth. Don't want to give yourself too much of an advantage. Oh, there it is.
Hold your tongue, Nathanius.
I almost lost faith for a moment there. He's got the team with that too.
Now the real question is, guys, is he gonna play Protoss?
Oh, I don't think so.
His menu thing said Terran. I think he might be bound to that. We do have, of course, Lambo as well coming in, our Zerg player, and top 4 WCS Austin. How we feel about this matchup when we look at this overall?
Oh God, you know, it seems like right now Lambo is on fire. You know, getting 3rd place, was it, at Home Story Cup, being eliminated by Innovation, who ended up winning the whole thing. that's a strong finish. And when you compare that to Austin as well, where he gets top 4, and we don't know how far he could have gone because he was eliminated by Cyril. And who wasn't eliminated by Cyril?
Yeah.
No, if you would have asked me a month and a half ago, I would always say uThermal hands down, because I believe that uThermal was the best European Terran. And I still think he is, even though I don't think it really helps that he's playing that much Protoss. But Lambo, as we just took a look at some of his facts, he's been so damn impressive lately. Like you said, top 4 Austin, top 3 home story. You gotta give him the small edge over this man that I still have a lot of confidence in, because he is still incredibly good. But with uThermal, we do know that sometimes he can get a little carried away in series, right?
Yeah.
When things don't go his way, he can kind of lose his temper, and it's never for the best, because he's so freaking good at StarCraft if he just stays calm.
So key to success in this matchup for uThermal then would be to just keep a cool head and just play his A game.
Yes.
Yeah, if he can play his best StarCraft, I mean, uThermal can go right up into top 4, so in my opinion. I agree with you, Roddy. I think he's still the best Terran in Europe, but it's been so long since he's had a really standout performance.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, we talk him up a lot, and he does deserve it, because, for instance, he was the runner-up of Challenger for Austin, and that's not an easy thing to accomplish. If you go back to 7 or 8 challenges in a row, he always makes it into at least top 8 of Challenger, often top 4 as well. So he's consistently performing. But yeah, we are kind of waiting for another deep run at a live event, because I Am Shanghai, that's quite a while ago.
Yeah. That was a great story, but ladies and gentlemen, we'll be keeping up with you guys. You'll be following some of the other games. It is time to start our first match here of WCS Valencia 2018. It's time for uThermal versus Lambo.
What's up, everybody? We're here at WCS Valencia. I'm Tasteless, and joined with me is In Control. And what a match we have to start things off. uThermal versus Lambo.
Like the boys were saying, this could be a later round match, but it is just the first action we get to broadcast. Both these guys making it through that group stage 1, but now in group stage 2, they're, like Dan was saying, kind of up for elimination possibly.
Introducing our first player in the upper left. In the blue, make some noise for uThermal! And his opponent down here in the bottom right, in the red. Give it up for Lambo!
I'll tell you what, Tasteless, Germany not known for its cheese, but in the Netherlands they have Gouda. But here, Lambo's gonna bring some of his own German cheese. It's a 1-base opening with that gas. Could be some Ravagers. He's actually pulled off the gas, so maybe just speed, but this is a hard investment. He's looking to get some kind of damage done.
You know, I should note, I've got the chance to talk to Lambo. He's been in Korea for some time now, off and on. Of course, going to tournaments overseas where he's performed very well. He's a bright guy. He's got a good head on his shoulder. I think whether it's this tournament or future tournaments, he's going to have a lot of success. I think this is going to be a lot harder for uThermal than it would be, let's say, a year or two ago.
Sure. Yeah, Lambo's really coming to his own, and there's something to be said for that kind of confidence you get when you do get those good results. But we can see here, it's looking to be some kind of add-on to that barracks as these Zerglings are going to make their way around here. There is no SCV scout, and of course, Lambo has his timed out, so he knows when the Reaper's going to pop out. But if with a CC on the low ground, there's a good chance he can get some really good damage in here. And with that speed coming in, the hard counter of the Reaper all of a sudden becomes something the Zerg can actually deal with.
That's right. So this is timed out so that when the Reaper leaves, the Zerglings can go in. The SCV is alone and isolated, which means the command center cannot be finished if he opts to attack it. We have 3 Lings now headed towards the main now. A Marine over here with some SCVs to block, but the SCV creating that command center does go down. Zergling speed about 80% complete.
Going up the ramp would have been nice, but getting the cancellation on that CC is damage enough. So, of course, just going ahead and going here. And this is the nice thing, too. With that cancellation, you can't actually repair that add-on. So, with the reactor about to go down here as well, more damage has to be done on behalf of Lambo, but it can be mitigated by these buildings being added on. But even that's kind of damage, Tasteless.
That's right. We didn't see that Reaper set back right away. It looks like it's headed back over here to the north right now. But these Zerglings have certainly slowed down the momentum here from uThermal. Let's see if he can actually manage to get this one depot going down. The Reaper comes up, drives those Zerglings out, and barely that Wallen will survive.
More Speedlings coming over here, and at this point, those additional Speedlings don't actually do much for you as they cannot crack the defenses of getting up and in there. So that additional investment, excuse me, is going to be a little bit kind of null and void. But the third hatch is going down for Lambo, and behind this, he's fairly safe and secure for now. We are going to have individual Hellions come out because that reactor was not allowed to finish just yet. And the Reaper, of course, against speed lanes, doesn't have the ability to get out there and get that map control. It can only use cliffs to stay alive.
So it should be noted, this opening that Lambo went for, it's intended to cripple the turret. It's never really intended to end the game. So far, everything is going fine for Lambo. Now, this strategy did not come without its own sacrifice. The fact that Lambo had to invest a lot into the Zergling speed as well as those Zerglings. He doesn't have drones right away. So the goal from here on out is to try to keep uThermal pinned inside of his base, whether it be by trying to snipe, for instance, a Reaper going down the hill or to do a counterattack. It looks like he's basically exhausted that and will now retreat back home. There is going to be an opportunity coming up here if uThermal decides to take advantage of it, where he can come in and try to put some pressure on of his own.
Yeah, and to your point, Tasteless, the damage done to uThermal is not great. Obviously, the Terran wants to kind of do the thing that he wants to do without being interrupted, but he handled this fairly well. He's actually in there in SCVs. His tech path has not been kind of put off too bad. As long as he can get some kind of harass done, some scouting here fairly soon. It's not going to be with this Reaper, by the way. As I say, oh, he does get tapped in the back.
It was actually a nice setup there by Lambo. It looked from where the observer was watching that that was certainly going to get in and get some scouting done, but the Lynx were kept far back enough that once the Terran committed, there was no way to turn that around. Some Hellions are going to loop through here, but there are no drones available yet to take on, so the Hellions unable to really do their job at that moment. And we had an Overlord scout from Lambo, so Lambo getting confirmation of what direction uThermal is going to take this game that so far Lambo has dictated pretty effectively.
Bit of a fake though there, Nick, actually. Scouts, there's an upgrade on that Tech Lab add-on on the starport, but in fact it is not for anything. A Raven comes off just after the Overlord dies. We can see Spore Crawlers did go down, so Lambo did take the bait. Now, of course, on the one hand, we're like, oh, that's a mistake. He didn't see what's really happening. But on the other hand, you can't take that risk, right? Banshees show up and you don't have any detection. You're in a lot of trouble.
We have some more Hellions coming down now. The Queens are a bit bunched up over here, defending the third. It looks like he's going to spread his legs and try to come in here for an intercept, driving those Hellions back. So far, no kills, but again, uThermal unable to make a dent. Let's see here with this auto turret if this can do some damage of its own.
He's not making a dent, Tasteless, but he's been doing a really good job of not overcommitting. A lot of times when Terrans make that many Hellions, they're like, no, I'm the boss, I'm pushing in, I'm going to get some damage done. But uThermal, realizing the value of these guys still being alive later, maybe turning them to Hellbats, something like that, is keeping them alive. So no, there's no damage to be done, but by not killing them himself, he's actually doing okay, I would say.
I agree completely. The fact that there is no overextension here by uThermal is actually pretty huge.
Yeah.
But again, Lambo with solid defense, definitely in at least a pretty comfortable place in this game. So far, the most that uThermal's been able to do is utilizing this Raven, trying to come in here and do as much damage as possible with those auto turrets.
This is a bit of a dicey position right there. Now some Hellions going to grab onto some Queens here. They do kill one in the middle, working on additional ones. This other Raven, unfortunately, is a little bit lost in no man's land. It should go down, it does, and it will die for that spell that it casts, but it's not super great. The other one, however, behind the main, this is just tremendous harass. You look, the kills are only 4, so it's not like it's done amazing damage, but just the fact that it's safe there and constantly getting to pull, getting a few kills is really nice.
Yeah, losing that Raven is going to hurt, though, in the long run. I mean, ideally, you never want to ever lose the Raven because in a perfect game, you could always just keep that at the right distance. uThermal now is going to try to take his third. He's getting 1-1 behind this, and this should be a safe third. We see that Lambo is still trying to leverage economically his situation, the fact that uThermal's tried to be aggressive and it's bounced off of Lambo. In fact, uThermal's suffering some losses back there. It should be a little bit of a slow game for the time being until Lambo can try to strike or uThermal wants to push out.
It's going to speed up pretty quick. I agree with you there, though, Tasteless. But right now, this turret harass continuing. And again, the drone pulls have been on point, but just the mismining is actually damage enough. Now, keep your eye on the production tab there. You'll notice the army of Lambo is at 16. He's been very minimalist about that. He's been heavy on the drones, shooting up in tech. He's got double Evo chambers, going for that Hydroling, Baneling tech, but he's doing it on Queens and just minimal amounts of Lings. If he can get past this stage right here where the double Medevac shows up with that healthy of an economy, it's going to be a tough path for uThermal.
Yeah, uThermal's going to have to make something happen here. As you were saying, Jeff, with this push that we have coming up over here now, he's driving back the creep. There's a spine crawler getting set up. It's important for the Terran to not overextend here. You can always keep these Marines and Medevacs active on the map, and we see them now trying to dive down on top of those Queens.
Those pick up pretty healthily there for the most part. One Marine goes down, but it even goes down to the Baneling, so it's an actually okay exchange. Now keep your eye on that spot of the map. You actually want the creep to be pushed out a lot further because it's a very common Marine tank push. You can use that cliff there to kind of negate the AoE, not even AoE, excuse me, but like the concave attack of the Zerg, and you can really put pressure on that base, and if you win the fight there, you can very often win the game, and one of the biggest ways to do that is to fight back against that creep.
I think uThermal's going to try to push out now.
Yeah.
It's got a decent number of medevacs. Combat Shields is about to finish up.
Is it just
And
the
it
one
looks like
tank?
It's going to be, I believe it is one tank, unless the medevacs are full. One more in the back. He's going to try to push down here in the south. He might be able to isolate the southern expansion over here to the one that we see just on the right-hand side of our screen. Counterattack's not working either. uThermal may try to come in here and sink his teeth in.
Yeah, by doing that counterattack, it's a really nice move when it works, but when it doesn't work, it actually makes this attack that much more strong. Those two tanks in the back, as you say, is going to retreat into their kind of range. There's the armor missile going down, but actually with the tanks by themselves, some very basic lings might be able to pick them off. Absolutely they will. Now the hatch does go down, and that is damage enough. If you'll exchange that for two tanks, Nick, I'll do that twice on Sunday and a couple times on Monday as well. I'm totally fine.
To be honest, the tanks are the only thing that's expendable post the expansion being destroyed like that.
Sure.
If you can pick up and actually get out, it's completely fine. Now, I think the game plan from uThermal here might be to rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Come in, try to smash those expansions over and over. A lot of times, Zerg players will lose a game, not because they're pushed all the way back into their main and they lose all their tech, but because they're never able to get that growth rate that they need. They have to stay ahead of the Terran.
2-2 about to finish for a Terran player, and actually kind of weirdly enough here, Lambo, who did have early double Evo chambers, just now getting that second tier of upgrades on his melee. So Marine's gonna get picked up here. But to your point, Nick, I'm a little bit worried. If that rinse repeat does get executed fine for uThermal, Lambo's gonna be out of this game, down a base, and a little bit behind in upgrades. This is the danger zone he's flying in right now.
He's actually, uThermal's headed southbound once again. There's a counterattack of Lings, and I believe the Hydras and Banes are centered inside, right there in the center of the map. And with a lot of Banelings coming up here, he might be able to completely obliterate this attack. uThermal's going to have to take advantage of this ridge we see in the center of the screen, trying to fire down with siege tank shots and stim and kite Marines correctly in order to hold anything off.
Absolutely. Now, kind of go back to what we talked about, losing those tanks. Not the biggest of deals if you've got two factories pumping out tanks, but there's actually just one tank being made at a time. And even on this attack, there's only just the one tank. All those Banelings, yeah, they'll be mostly off creep. That's going to be kind of to their detriment. But if it's mostly against Marines, it's a tall order for uThermal to hold that. Now, we did see a fourth base attempt get at least slowed down by this Ling counterattack. Now making their way in here and finding some purchase. For the most part, uThermal been doing a great job countering this, though. And there is that second factory now, I believe.
Nice snipe there on that tank. So Lambo definitely doing an excellent job keeping creep up here to the north. If Lambo could take out this attack we see right over here, he'll definitely have a lot of a quicker trip to get up to the north and try to take out that fourth base. It looks like uThermal walling off his third base at the bottom. Definitely uThermal's going to be trying to stretch out more to the right over here.
Oh, love the Liberators, love the army advantage here for uThermal. He's really putting the pressure down on Lambo. Lambo's setting up for a gigantic concave from the south and from this base, trying to buy time. He wants to equalize in supply here. And if he can wait just even longer and get the 2-2 upgrades, that'd be great. Some Vipers coming out. So much about to be great for Lambo, but maybe uThermal's not going to give the time. He's going to press forward here. Some of the Banelings do connect, but not super wonderfully. There's the Vipers. They're going to suck down that energy and try to go for the push.
The goal here for uThermal is to try to bleed off as many of those Banelings before the full-on attack comes in here from Lambo. If he can keep poking in at that hatchery, nicely done, actually takes out Raven there. If he can keep poking down this attack, it should be okay. And we're having that huge attack coming here now. Banelings and Hydras hitting here from the south. Marines beginning to split, but the Liberator setup looks like it may be too strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Just could not get anything done there. He fought off creep. We've been talking about that for ages. It spells doom. The Viper's going to get focused down. One might flutter away, but with no or little energy. The base dies. The Bioforce is massive. Some Banelings are trying to be morphed in, but it's not enough. uThermal scores first blood.
GG, excellent game there by uThermal. I think a lot of that, as you were saying in control, involved the fact that there wasn't quite enough creep to have a proper engagement over there. And the moment that uThermal identified that, he closed in and he maintained that position. That hatchery had taken enough damage. We had already seen a hatchery destroyed before. uThermal was forced to play out his hand, and that's where, Lambo was forced to play out his hand, and that's where uThermal got that closer. So a 1-0 lead right now for uThermal.
And, to go back talking about the strategy a little bit too, I think it was interesting that Lambo opened the way he did. A lot of times that's some kind of hard read, and uThermal is a little bit more of a cheesy player. Somebody that might proxy a barracks, proxy some units out there. And if you can go open speed like that and get a cheap and easy win, that's a great way to start off a best of 3. But uThermal, with the Ling counterattacks, with the off-kilter opening, and just everything since then looked really balanced, looked really calm. And the boys at the desk talked about this. Roddy talked about it in general. If he can remain calm, if he can be kind of calm, cool, and collected, he's one of the better players out there. We don't joke when we say he's a top 4, top 6 caliber European player. He just sometimes doesn't play like it, but I'll tell you what, in that first game, he looked darn good.
uThermal's definitely going to be riding that momentum from that victory. But at the same time, Lambo is a very experienced player, of course, riding on a lot of recent success. I don't believe he's going to be too shaken by this.
Yeah.
I think you have to dust yourself off and go into game 2. Now, let's talk about the early game there. We saw that Lambo went for that Ling opening. He denied the command center, and he was actually in control. It was incredible that uThermal was able to react like that, pull everything together, and then go into an actual macro game with a long term push and close it out. I'm wondering how Lambo's going to open up this time around here in game 2.
Well, you know, he's just been so mechanically strong. One of the worst ways to face Lambo is when he's got kind of all the builds in front of him. He's not afraid to cheese. He's not afraid to go macro. And of course, he's known for his timing attacks. But starting off that first game, getting some work done, but facing a player that just kind of responded exactly how you're supposed to, I gotta believe Lambo's gonna dig deep and go into the kind of mechanical game. Let's see how we do in a long game.
Yeah, I think if he can definitely get into maybe a strong suit, which is actually to have a proper late game. I know he's been training very hard in the foreigner house in Korea with no regret. Anyways, we're ready. We're going into game number 2 on 16-bit. Introducing our first player in the upper right with a 1-0 lead. Make some noise for uThermal!
You're giving him the big taste of the show. I like it.
And his opponent down in the bottom left, in the red, he is Lambo!
Lambo had a bit of a rough start to the tournament, actually taking second in his group, while absolutely being the kind of high caliber player, the favorite in that group. Taking second's fine, it doesn't really ruin it, but it kind of begins to make you wonder, am I having a little bit of a tough time? And then to get up here, have a tough group, face uThermal, one of the better players in the tournament, drop that first game, and we don't really have any excuses, right? There was no Lambo, it was not an all-in, it was definitely an off-kilter opening. It did not get the damage he wanted, but for the rest of the game, he just was kind of, every move he did, it was getting responded to by uThermal really well. So uThermal looking to be very strong.
We can see that Lambo shifted gears with openers this time around. Instead of trying to get in his opponent's face and limit the options that uThermal has in the hopes that uThermal maybe can play the game he didn't want to play, and that's how Lambo can seize a win. Lambo's playing a more retracted opener that's focused on himself rather than his opponent. He's getting this hatchery up here. The pool timing's quite normal. And we're going to see what kind of game this is going to unfold into. Now, on this map, it is a little bit different. You do get this free base for Terran. Good at Berserk, of course, but we don't see Lambo taking that yet. He'll take that a little bit later on. But we're definitely going to go into a different type of Terran versus Zerg here in game 2.
Yeah. You know, to be fair, excuse me, I do think we'll like end up in the same place, but how we get there is very, very different. It's going to favor Lambo a little bit. While that opening was scary, and I definitely think uThermal's like 1 or 2 choices away from just flat out losing that game, I think he situationally came out a little bit ahead. And we didn't talk a lot about this, but a big part of the reason why the creep spread at that third was not as advanced as it probably should have been. And a lot of times Zerg will have like 5 or 6 queens as opposed to the 3 or so that Lambo had kind of out in the map spreading that creep, was because of the opening. It does actually hurt the Zerg to not be able to have as many queens, as robust of an economy, and to really get a few creep tumors out there a little bit earlier. Then all of a sudden those pushes, the first 2 waves of that from uThermal are met and put down a little bit more summarily, and then all of a sudden the Zerg is in a better stable spot. So I definitely think Lambo looks at the game and says, all right, with this one, it's a big macro map, right? We got that pocket base like you were talking about, very hard to crack. Let's get into the mid game. Let's give me that creep spread, and let's see if uThermal can still beat me.
I really like what you said back there, because a lot of times you'll see an attack like that early on from Lambo, and you have to appreciate the sacrifice taken in order to have that aggression. And yeah, even though it worked for Lambo, he wasn't able to fully harness it and take advantage of it because he had to make up for his deficits back at home.
Yeah, it's still a good strategy, though. I like, you know, a lot of times when you face that first group stage, there's an awesome Spanish audience here. We got a lot of people at home watching this. It's a big WCS Valencia stop. If you can do a weird build like that and uThermal kind of freaks out, the butterflies get control of his hands or something like that, and he falls apart, you get that free win. And the nice thing for Lambo is that, again, gets all the nerves out of him. Now he's 1-0, and he is a cheeky Zerg that's not afraid to do some cheeses, so he can all of a sudden bust out in game 2. But you know what? It's neither here nor there. We do see kind of the usual exchange between Zerg and Terran in this matchup right now, trying to get that Reaper in. Keep an eye on if there's going to be a fast lair, double evo, that kind of stuff. And if you can get some damage done here, the drone's not really splitting up. The first volley is not super impressive. Lane's getting on top of those Hellions. And while the damage is only 3 drones, I gotta say it's a good defense so far.
Yeah, had he gotten one more volley up on those drones, he could have gotten a considerable amount more. So 4 drones go down, but then again, those Hellions don't really pay for themselves. If you look across the map, it appears that Terran is gonna take a third base eventually here.
Yeah.
There's really not that much you can do on this map to try to deny a Terran from taking that. So this game should be centered around the Zerg's. It doesn't have to be, but it could be centered around the Zerg's 4th base. Can Terran push out there and smash it? Or we make it into a very long and drawn out Terran versus Zerg, which is going to be really exciting to see as well.
It definitely could go that way. To your point, though, I think what that harass is designed to do, very rarely is it going to end the game because there's a 3rd CC behind it. There's tech coming up behind it. But if you can kill 10, 15 drones and make the 4th base timing like delayed extravagantly that way, all of a sudden the 3rd base of the Terran is very powerful. But as it is, again, some more of that light harass. You'll notice on this map as well, this is something that Tastes talked about last game, but if the Raven's just safe out there in outer space like that, it can just keep dropping these turrets. You don't pay attention one time, 5 or 6 drones go down, and all of a sudden it becomes a huge ordeal.
Yeah, and at this phase of the game, this is what it usually looks like at a top tier Terran versus Zerg, is that the Zerg has to keep reacting and minimizing as much damage as possible. We see this coming in here again. Actually, a very nice angle of these drones. It looks like it should get at least 2 kills. No. Okay.
You were right, Nick.
I second guess myself. I'm too hard on myself.
Yeah.
So he does drive that away. But yeah, that Raven can come in there several times. We definitely want to watch the HP on that because every time it comes forward, Lambo's going to be diving down to that part of the map and trying to chip away at it as much as possible. The second Raven's going to come in, and it looks like this is going to be a pretty good position. If he throws that auto turret down in time, I think it looked unfavorable once those Lings managed to run up.
A little bit of the StarCraft miscue where he thought about doing something, looked away, and got some macro done, but again, this is like the improvement on last game that you were talking about. This Raven doesn't have to die. It can take a little bit of damage from the Queens. We can drop a good 3, 4, 5 of the turrets over time and just do some kind of damage over time. But behind this, let's take a look at what we're seeing from our Terran player. It is going to be those bio upgrades, +1 armor coming in. And again, actually selecting some of the drones and getting them first. The nice thing about these are free units, guys. So yeah, a couple of them go, they die eventually, obviously, but at the same time, they're killing stuff. Why not?
Interesting to see that it was through 2 auto turrets thrown down there. Did not get any additional drones, so that's a lot of energy drained on the Raven. It won't be used for a while, but we're finally at the phase where the first 2 medevacs are out. They're going to be coming out and killing creep. And let's not forget in game 1, it really did come down to the amount of creep that Zerg had and whether or not Terran was able to set up a good position. So let's see what uThermal can do with this. Obviously, the geography of the map is a bit different, so I'm curious to see how he's going to attack in and what can he capitalize on. And especially on a map like this, you can always expand away from wherever the Terran has a decent amount of control as far as creep goes.
And it is going to be a Spire Tech behind that. I do want to make one note, though. When you're using Ravens this way, the kind of interesting damage you're doing to yourself is that they're not alongside the Hellions and they're not fighting back creep tumors. So the creep for Lambo isn't the most amazing thing we've ever seen, and we can see a couple active tumors do die there as well, but it could have been worse, I guess, is the potential here. So you're kind of trading out those 4 or 5 drones or so for fighting the creep tumors just that much better.
Oh, where's that other Queen? That's too bad. He could have actually gotten that Raven, but it looks like instead it's going to throw down an auto turret, and Lambo reacting a little bit slowly here. That Raven will be able to escape. That's going to be a factor later on in this game. We did see that uThermal went for a drop in the main first, which was denied, so that was destruction of the creep that occurred a little bit later on than it could have.
Yep, and a nice push here from uThermal. Keep in mind, like, the Ravens have gotten back. The Hellions are added in and they're turned into Hellbats. So a lot of what uThermal's done has been in exchange for free stuff. And you can see over here again, he's got a slight army advantage, not that big this time. It's not something super, super crazy. But to be fair, Lambo is the one that's been deflecting this defense, but at the cost of units and micro, whereas for uThermal, he's been doing it pretty cheaply.
Okay, we have another drop over here. It's in that Nook expansion, just in the very back. Some Lings and Banes come up, deny that. I don't know if uThermal wants to commit with this push right now.
No, I don't think so.
There's nowhere it seems that you can set up it's not going to be very accessible here for the Zerg army. Now, with the Mutas coming out across the map, these SCVs have no defense over there, and actually a pretty awkward angle even to try to escape through here.
Yep,
and this is a big win here for Lambo, with uThermal still out in the middle of the map.
Yeah, a lot of his army's out in the middle of the map. Now, a good split of the Marines, actually, knowing that he'll head towards that main mineral line, does go ahead and shoot down a couple of the Mutas. The damage has been mitigated to a certain extent. Even a missed micro there as the Mutas kind of turn back. They go into the natural.
Oh, wow.
And this was a great attack, but it turns into a bit of a costly one. Now, if the Mutas get out, remember, they heal super, super fast, so...
Oh, I think they might get intercepted here. Okay, he's going to go north. No, good escape.
There's actually still no missile turrets there.
Oh, wow, I guess there really aren't.
Yeah.
But if I were him, I wouldn't attack into that either at that point in time. You saw Lambo starting to do damage, but the way that uThermal was able to reconfigure his army, once the Mutas got too deep in, several of them were taken out. Oh, no.
Well,
I thought he was going to get that raid for sure. A bit of a bumpy game here from Lambo. He's got into a late game economic position and unit composition position he wants to have, but the execution does not seem to be quite as clean.
A lot of Lings kind of showing themselves as a counterattack potential. Does see that Thor, so that's kind of the snap call when you see Mutas. If they keep adding Mutas, you're going to need that kind of a Thor tech. We do actually see a decent number of Mutas out there. If you look at that production tab, 6 more being added to the 12 that are already out here. And I do like this from Lambo, at least in theory right now. He's kind of lining up for a counterattack. I don't like the Mutaling Baneling as a frontline assault kind of army versus army type tech, but I love it for a big map counterattack. And if he can buy more time, get into that hive tech, and get into the juicy stuff like Ultras, and then he can take on the army.
Now, this is a pretty long distance for Terran to try to push. There's also 2 additional expansions that Zerg can take here. They may take the upper left base, or let's take a look at this one first, the bottom center base, which I think is probably going to be a little bit more desirable, but we'll see. It's ultimately up to Lambo. The other one would be right up here. There's really no other base that would be logical for Zerg to take. So the uThermal is going to try to control and dictate that from here on out.
He's going to try to fight the main army. Here comes the Mutas. I don't know if I agree at this point. uThermal's going to back up here, up on top of the ramp. So Bane's connecting, but mostly with non-marine units. The positioning's just too good for uThermal.
Oh, wow, that was a really rough engagement there. uThermal still going to press forward now. We have a lot more Banelings coming into play. Now, this is a decision that uThermal has to make correctly. Does he push further and end up hemorrhaging more units, possibly, or does he kill an expansion, or does he back up and take a 4th? And it looks like he's going to back up. And I'm sorry, not take a 4th, in fact, regroup and try to push down the southern side of the map where the creep distance from the hatchery is not that great.
Not the fastest hive from Lambo, so his 3-3 upgrades are going to be quite delayed, and a lot of that, again, hive tech not available to him for a little while here. uThermal had a good exchange, but I think if he steps on creep, as Tates was pointing out, that would have been doomed. There's still a lot of Banelings, still a higher army supply for Lambo, or excuse, just supply in general. Lings get caught here again, so the counterattack not really working. And that's mostly because to what you just said, Nick, there is no 4th base, so the Terran's not that spread out. He's a little bit consolidated, and that's a good and bad thing, right? He can't be counterattacked, but at the same time, as time goes on, he's mining out.
So we're seeing a unit composition that's actually similar to what we saw in a lot of Heart of the Swarm from the Zerg right now. Lots of Lings, Banes, and Mutas. And right now, Zerg wants to get into a fight, but uThermal says, come at me, bro. He's going to come right here, right now. The Baneling's spilling up from the north, and it looks like the Mutas are going to have to back up. Lambo needs to regroup, make a few more Banelings, rinse and repeat.
Pretty decent connections because the rest of the army wasn't there. They just could have been better. And this looks like it's just the army. The Banelings are going to split up here. The Thor step forward, the Marines behind it. There's the stim. Banelings looking for the connections with the Marines. They're going to get it. You're fighting on creep uThermal, and that is a mistake as the Bioforce is going to pick up and get out of dodge. But behind this, 5 pretty healthy bases for Lambo, a big army advantage. And now while we're off creep, it looks like he's actually still confident.
Yeah, I think he's still got enough. He's going to try to come in right now. And that's going to be it. GG. Lambo evens it up 1-1 after a great engage close to his 4th base. And you can see that if Lambo can get to where he wants to be, he is a real force to be reckoned with. I don't think uThermal should have kept committing. I think there was nothing that should have compelled him to try to close that out. With the creeps that spread out, maybe uThermal should have dialed it back and taken a 4th base. What do you think?
I mean, certainly in retrospect, that would have been the better plan, but I think in his mind, because there was no 4th base, there's kind of this invisible clock for him where if he didn't get a lot of damage done early on in the game, if he doesn't get any damage with a mid-game push, then all of a sudden there's Broodlords or 10 Ultras, and he just cannot compete with that. So for a lot of us, it's easy to look in and be like, no, you got to change up your game plan. But for him, with limited information, that's what he thought was his best chance to win. Now, again, if he could go back and play it again, he'd probably use that army to grab a 4th, grab a 5th, and really push it into the long game.
Okay, it's all going to come down to this last game, at least with these two players. Now, Lambo showing excellent engages there in a late game. Maybe uThermal wants to do something aggressive this time around?
Yeah, it's possible, and that's definitely on Lambo's mind.
Of course, there's always a degree of predictability with this, right? I mean, you only have a small number of games in a best of 3, right?
Yeah.
Is that the obvious play? And does Lambo go and have a similar opening, one that's more focused on himself and less focused on his opponent?
I would say that there's like a 95% chance that Lambo opens exactly the same way. And the wild card here is uThermal, a guy who's gotten really far in tournaments, even won some, off the back of being a player that is unpredictable, willing to do the kind of crazy, cheesy stuff. That being said, Nick, in a best of 3, like you said, just very few games, if you can go for a deciding kind of the rubber match and go cheesy all in, that takes some guts, man. That's really hard to do, because one bad call there or a good prediction from Lambo and you're made to look really silly, and then you're in that loser bracket, or the loser part, of this group. And as Artosis said, who are you facing? It's like TLO and DeMuzzlem, I think, are the other players, both people capable of beating either of these guys.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy group, because if you go down to that losers group, because it seems like everybody's so evenly matched here that I think you have to take it one series at a time, but certainly with this, you need to come out on top in this group if you want to survive. It's going to be a real uphill battle otherwise.
Yeah. And, I'd almost even add to your point, I don't know that they're evenly matched. I think these two are the favorite, but that's in and of itself kind of a weird spot, because those other guys are capable of beating them, and that could be the upset.
Oh, you could absolutely have an upset here. Yeah. All right, everybody, let's make some noise. We're going into game number 3, the last between these two players, Lambo and uThermal. Our Terran player in the bottom right, in the blue, make some noise for uThermal! His opponent in the upper left, in the red, he is Lambo!
Valencia is such an important WCS stop. We've had the domination of Cerro, but it's just that the tournament circuit is just not that long. We're already at Valencia. We only have Montreal after this, and then we're mostly set for BlizzCon. So you got to get those points in now, because you're not guaranteed other opportunities, especially with how hot and fiery some of these other players are. So uThermal, Lambo, these are guys that are up there. Lambo number 10 in the WCS groups. He's wanting to get that ticket to BlizzCon. That's a lot more money. That's all the prestige. That's a big, big deal. And he's only just this year getting those results, Taste. This is something you were talking about. It's nice to ride the momentum, but if it doesn't get you to the big, big tournament at the end of the year, it's nice, but not great. He wants to be great.
It's an interesting contrast to uThermal, who's really, he's a household name, especially in non-Korean StarCraft too, but he's had his own ups and downs. And I think this tournament, especially for uThermal, is very important, because this is going to, assuming he has a lot of success here, really allow him to find that foothold to make the next few steps to get to the World Finals for BlizzCon. But Lambo, this guy, I think so far this has really been his year. Early on, he's had so much success. He's tournament after tournament.
Yeah.
He made the decision to go to Korea and train hard, and we can see that that's paid off. And this is going to be the big test now, is can he do it here in Game 3 against uThermal. Lambo did opt to open in a more conservative, self-focused style, going for a hatchery, trying to develop his own economy rather than pull the rug out from under uThermal this time around.
Yeah, they both are so far, and I think that is the correct call. It's really, really tough to put basically your position in this group down to a really, really scary all-in that can, of course, win you the game, but when you're evenly matched against a player like uThermal or Lambo, just depending on the perspective, it's a hard sell to do. Now, this Reaper getting some good dance damage in, but so far, nothing really, really to it. Just kind of spending some mining time, getting some scout. This is, again, kind of that, it's funny, because it's been since Heart of the Swarm that the Reaper's found itself in this spot where we're just like, this is what it does. It's the little brother. It's tickling you a little bit.
It's probably not going to do anything, but maybe it will, so let's watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's this part of StarCraft that's been so mapped out at the top level that generally there's not much impact from it, but why would you not try to do something with it, right?
Right.
There's not much going on in the game at that phase in this matchup.
Well, it's kind of funny, because it's like it's chess in a certain way where you do these openings, and you're not hoping to necessarily get the checkmate and win, But in order to get to a place where you can, this is kind of part of what you have to do. If you don't open Reaper, you don't have that early game scouting, you don't have that map control, the creep tumors run rampant, the Zerg feels free to drone forever. And they also do a really good job of aiding the Hellions, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's something that most of us understand, but while it doesn't feel like it's the most momentous opening, it's definitely a key part of the otherwise standard opening. Now, the Ling makes its way in here and does see Hellions, and uThermal's not going to break the mold so far. We even see a Raven coming out. In the TvZ meta lately, we've been seeing a lot of Banshees. It's not super uncommon to see Ravens, but 3 for 3 so far for uThermal. He's going back to the Raven.
Yeah, it seems like uThermal, rather than having a whole bunch of pretty, great scout there, yeah. Rather than trying to do a whole bunch of very, very different builds, he has this one, almost like it's a ladder build or something like that. This one plan. Now, these Hellions are coming in here now. These drones need to be defended.
And he's going to go ahead and try to grab, good grab there on top of 2 of the Hellions. So yes, 6 drones did die, but it could have been so much worse with those Queens out of position. They were blocking the ramp over there, and then as it is so often in StarCraft, they just moved to go add some creep tumors, and that's when the Hellions get in there. It could have been disastrous, but overall not bad. Now on the flip side, of course, uThermal does kill 6 drones, so it's not the worst case scenario in the world for him. It's an okay exchange.
Doesn't seem like there's an Overlord that's going to scout the main of uThermal right now.
Yeah.
uThermal's actually going to double down here with this aggression. Now, some Terran players would have tried to pull those Hellions back and wait until they have 8 total and try to dive in again. So let's see with his still wounded drones if these can do a little bit more damage. They're going to come forward now. Good positioning here with those Lings, but they actually slip by the Hellions.
Yeah, they get past a little bit, but again, a good surround by the drones. A little bit of a citizen's arrest there as 5 more drones do die. But that's been 8 Hellions in total, killing 11 drones. Now, it's kind of funny because it's a little bit even, right? You give up complete map control as he loses the Reaper and those drones. This Raven, by the way.
This is so beautifully handled here
Take
by
that
Lambo.
You're not going to have any armor for a while, all right? That's what you get.
That was really nicely done there by Lambo. He actually traps that in that location. You can see that the Queens just have enough room to do the damage to take the Raven out. And so from here on out, uThermal's actually exhausted a lot of the assets he had to do any more damage. Now, that's not to say he didn't kill drones, but he doesn't have any map control right now. And take a look at the center of the map here. Yeah. Lambo's going to expand right there. This isn't an expansion to the upper right, which maybe a more timid Zerg would have to take. I think Lambo, seeing that uThermal might have possibly overextended here, is going to assert himself and take the center of the map.
Something's developing here. There's been a breaking in the mold. uThermal's going to show up with cloaked Banshees. Lambo has been actually skimping on Queens. You see he's building 2 more. He does not have any Spore Crawlers. He has no ability to stop this from happening. And these Banshees are about to show up. So far, undetected. They're going to get on top of that mineral line, and they're going to start destroying drones. Now, 11 have already gone down, and more are on their way. There's actually no Overseer here either. The Queens come over as kind of a scare tactic, but so many drones are getting wrecked. The 4th base gets spot on top of this. Excellent move from uThermal.
It's kind of crazy because you have to pull the drones, but the angling actually that those Banshees got, they never really stopped firing. So 17 kills, and this is all after Lambo, in a confident state, took that 4th base. That 4th base right now for Lambo has a bullseye on it for uThermal.
Oh, absolutely.
He is going to gear up and try to attack and again in that location shortly.
Now, one thing to kind of keep in mind, a Queen will die here, but I think at the cost of that Banshee, it's getting really low in health. Steps forward, takes a shot from that long-range Queen. So just the one Banshee here, so it'll remain annoying, but that's mostly the end of it. 4th base is kind of perilously positioned up close like that. uThermal has yet to take his 3rd. There it is. It's going to be saturated just now.
I was curious if uThermal, after that win, might have taken the base just north of this 3rd base, the one that would have mirrored where Lambo had taken the 4th base, but instead he decides to stay back. This is definitely a more conservative approach. So
that base would have been, that's really aggressive. That's like, if you go into prison, you're supposed to punch the big guy. That's punching the big guy, and then the other 10 biggest guys. That's right. All 10 of them.
But uThermal has been a very aggressive player in the past, someone who definitely likes timing pushes. Now we see that 1-1 has finished. Ineffective counterattack there by Lambo to try to get some control. Lambo definitely trying to get as much creep spread out as possible. And here comes uThermal now with a push, headed northbound through the small wedge in the center.
A little bit overzealous with that medevac. It'll take a couple of free shots. Ling's discovering there's a huge bioforce behind it. A lot of the active tumors are here, and they are being scanned, so they do all kind of go down immediately. The force here of Lambo is really small, Tasteless. If there's not a whole lot more to join into this, this might just end right now. Good splits from uThermal. He's on creep, but there's just not that much army. One of the tanks in the back trying to get picked off. The Bioforce is getting whittled down a little bit. It's going to have to just be whatever the Zerg can make and throw at this.
It's actually an incredibly scrappy fight here on both sides. Just one medevac remaining. A pickup, and he just barely gets away. But reinforcements are on the way. Lambo needs to gear up enough Zerglings to try to take this on. And as many Banelings as possible to force the Terran to run back. And we see another flank coming in here now.
He's just now making the Banelings. They aren't going to be added to this force for a little while, but there is that pickup again. Finally, one of the medevacs did die. It was very low in health. The Banshee actually being annoying on top of this. And the nice thing about that Banshee is spots for those Banelings. Here come the Banelings. Do we get some target fire to uThermal? We haven't seen it just yet. It looks like he's kind of opting to just weather the storm.
It's really interesting because you can see uThermal keep scanning, but he's not quite getting the one creep tumor that's just in between all these scans. The Banelings are now splitting up, but excellent move here by uThermal, and he's now going to try to close in and stutter step his way to a victory. And I don't believe that Lambo can hold his fourth base anymore.
There goes the Banelings. They're trying to morph. The drones are evacuating, but the damage is so deep. uThermal having a huge supply advantage, reinforcing and pushing down the middle map. There's more Banelings trying to morph on top of the army. Not going to work. The Hydra Force has no insulation. Drones getting pulled. That should do it. uThermal cracks the code, and Lambo is going to be in that lower bracket. And you talked about this, Tasteless. You said that fourth base is aggressive. It can be a good thing or a bad thing. You talked about it as a confidence point. Well, uThermal saw it, and he pounced and made it a good thing for him.
A lot of that goes back to those Banshees getting so many kills. By the time that Lambo would have remade all of those drones, that's when the push is coming. That's when the killing blow is headed towards Lambo's fourth base. And ultimately, if you can't have that fourth base, there's just no way to recover unless Terran made an awful mistake, and a player like uThermal simply will not do that.
No, great series from both these guys. It did go to game 3, and we saw some pretty cool stuff out of them. But now I kind of want to hear from uThermal on that stage with Smix. We're going to head over there right this second.
Thank you very much, guys. Congratulations, uThermal. It was our first match of the day here on the main stage, and you do come out the victor. I saw that you were talking about how Shibu is your good luck charm. It seems that's working out for you so far.
Yeah, for the first match for sure. And also, something that people don't know is that I had a massive losing streak from stage matches before today. I think I lost like the last 8 or something. So Shibu finally helped me break the curse today.
I'm glad, especially after I know Austin didn't go the way that you had wanted. So it's great to see you break that curse. Now let's talk about this match against Lambo. We saw Lambo had a very impressive performance in Austin, reaching top 4. And he's actually someone you haven't played officially in a while. So how did you expect this match to go?
I mean, I was pretty sure I was going to win because whenever I practice against Lambo, I usually win every single game. So I thought it was going to go pretty well for me.
Well, if I have to talk about any of the maps, I want to ask you about Dreamcatcher, because in the beginning, when his Lings ended up canceling your natural and he was breaking down your reactor, how hard is it for you as a player to keep your cool in that situation?
Well, it's just about the start, right? So I needed to get the wall up, and it was really close. It was like a matter of like 5 minerals. But once I did get the wall up, it's a standard situation. Like, people do that build often. I thought I was in a good spot myself. I don't know if I was, but I felt pretty good.
Well, now you're advancing to that winner's match of this group. The casters were calling this group the streamer group. It's going to be either TLO or the Muslim next. So out of those 2 streamers, I mean, who do you think that you'll be facing?
Well, I can see TLO standing there, so I guess he's finished. But I'm not sure. Oh, he won? Oh, he owned the Muslim, it seems like. So I guess I'll be playing TLO, which is great.
Another Liquid match coming up. Well, congratulations. We'll see how that match goes out. Let's head back to Nathanius and the boys.
Thank you very much, Smix, as uThermal picks up our first match on stage today. Man, that Dreamcatcher game, really got to see him utilize the terrain there. Great play by our Dutch Terran, Roddy.
Yes, excellent series. I was a little bit worried when this started off with him indeed losing that command center. I'm like, oh my goodness, he's going to tilt. It's going to be an ugly series. He's going to proxy Rex. But no, he was confident. He showed it on stage as well. Said, like, nah, play a lot of custom games with these guys. And I know how good I am. I just hope to see more of that uThermal. That's all.
Yeah, it was a good series. Lambo showed some promise there. Do we still feel good about his shot in this group?
I tell you, he's such a good player and his results are so strong lately. I think you kind of have to, but today has been a bit disappointing from him. And I saw on his face several times when he was on camera, you could just kind of see that he was not happy with how he's playing, with what the results are for him so far today. So it just might not be his tournament.
He lost against Shadone as well in the first group stage, and that's a loss we don't expect. On the other end, we can emphasize on this a lot, and if in the end he still makes it out in this group in second place, he may very well still have a deep run. So it's definitely not over yet for Lambo.
All right, I know you guys are following some of the other games going on. Roddy, you got a cheeky grin on your face?
Well, yes, that's not necessarily because of this game. I am jumping in, of course, into my boy Raynor. As he's up 1-0 over Massa, he had a very fun match on Dreamcatcher. It was a very typical Raynor game, right? Just waiting to counter, waiting to counter, waiting to counter. When he finally got into one of those mineral lines, he killed 30 SCVs and the game was over. Game 2 so far, Raynor is also doing what he always does. He has a lot of drones. So far, not too much happening. But the main reason why I was smiling, Nate, isn't because of this series, and definitely not because of this game too, because not too much has happened yet. But Vortex 2-0'd Petit Drogo in his first series of the second group stage.
So those guys are the Marino brothers. Good start. Do we have an update on how Lucifron's been?
Lucifron actually, the update we had before was wrong. He actually did get eliminated.
Oh, okay.
Massa did beat him
2-1.
And yeah, so we see Massa here instead of Lucifron. So unfortunately, he's already out.
Okay. Well, exciting times. I think a lot of people excited to see how Raynor is doing.
So far, so good. Like Toaster said earlier as well, Nate, sorry to interrupt there real quick, but yeah, he already beat Nurcho in the first group stage, and you could say that doesn't matter. They were both going to advance anyway. A, it's never that easy. There's a lot of good players, and B, it's still mentally, that's such a good feeling, right? You come over to a tournament, you're like, all right, I've got it. And so far against Massa, Little Raynor is looking very strong.
Now we've got a quick update on the groups for you as we do want to get into our next match. We'll be skimming through. Gentlemen, anything that jumps out to you then from any of the results that we have as we go through?
In this group, I'm actually aware of the fact that Denver won 2-0 over Seoul.
Okay.
Like I said, Denver is really good as well. This group, I mean, maybe Denver and Raynor. These Zergs, man, you can't stop the Zergs.
No.
These are insane.
And this is the result that Roddy was talking about before. The fact that Vortex now has come in, and Petit Drogo, this guy is a former WCS champion. Yes. He has spent time in Korea. He's known for his Protoss versus Zerg, for God's sake. I mean, he's so strong, but losing to, you know, the hometown favorite here in Vortex, just a genius pro gamer, chills, man.
Good starts for Showtime and Neeb so far in their group.
Is that the next series that we're going to jump in on the main stage? I wouldn't mind, Nate. Could we get some Showtime versus Neeb on stage, perhaps?
I'll never say no to bringing out the Neeb on the stage. And a Laser, I think we talked about this group. He should have this one in the bag for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what you expect.
I mean, he's the defending champ of Valencia, guys.
Yeah. And of course, we just saw as that group was moving forward that uThermal will be playing TLO in that winter match. Bly looking like taking the first match against Optimus, Roddy.
Okay. I mean, I can't call it a surprise because Bly keeps on winning those kind of series and those kind of games. So
Look at that. Hurston actually falls in his first match.
Did he play real or DNS? That is the big question.
I am not sure on that one.
But that's still rather surprising because I would have put Hurston as a small favorite, but maybe that's because I'm Dutch and really biased and have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, as Hero Marine.
Well, the first two things, yes, but maybe not the third.
And Hero Marine leads his group with that first win over NXZ. So
it's fun to see those updates, though. I really enjoyed, especially because in the past we've had a couple of those Group Stage 1 and Group Stage 2. Like, yeah, we'll cover it, but we kind of knew what was going to happen.
And now I can tell you the next match, Roddy, is going to be
Showtime versus Neeb.
You better believe it, baby. Neeb versus Showtime.
Rematch of WCS Leipzig semifinals, where they had a very fun series. I think back then Neeb was up 2-1, but Showtime won it 3-2 in the end. Plenty of Phoenixes back then. Can your boy Roddy get some Phoenixes, Nate? Is that possible?
I think the Phoenix hype may be real. Ladies and gentlemen, that is coming up next. You're watching the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series Valencia. We'll be right back.
Dad, the other kids aren't